We were on a $40 million, 39-unit condo project.
Wow.
That foundational structure, everything that you do to the best of your ability.
Love that.
Went to grab a hammer tacker out of my hand, and I said, if you go for it again, I'm going to hit you with it.
1% off a budget costs you a lot of money.
I don't have to know everything. I just need to know the people that know how to get that job done. I said, I'm going to build that house in 60 days.
60 days, a whole house?
Yep, there's the house. 54 days later. Sky's the limit.
That doesn't happen in the world of construction. That just doesn't happen.
And I did it again. And I did it again. And I did it again.
So what happens if you guys don't meet the schedule or the budget?
We don't. We don't miss.
If you fear excellence, swipe away now. This is the Dr. Pena podcast, where high performers come to raise the standard.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dr. Pena podcast, the performance standard. Now, everybody asks me, what's the standard? What's this performance standard? Well, it's pretty funny because you know it when you see it, and I saw it the first time I met this next guest. Today, we're diving deep into the world of construction. Construction is tough. Construction is cutthroat. Look, they operate off margins that are razor thin, 1% off a budget, or one lapse of judgment on a job site. It costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we have a high level operator here, one that I'm super excited to introduce to have on the podcast. But we have the owner, the founder of Compass Construction out of Montana, Bill Goldberg. Bill, what's up, man?
Living the dream.
Thanks. I bet the weather's a little bit better out here than Montana, huh?
Absolutely beautiful. We're not having much of a winter at home right now, but
oh yeah?
Yeah, they told me it was 58 degrees yesterday, and I was like, it's January. And they were golfing.
Oh, they were?
It's an odd year, but it does happen. But it'll get cold. It'll start snowing again. Yeah.
Well, let's dive in. Before Compass was Compass, obviously it needed you to fire start that because there was no handouts in your life. Everything you earned. So I love going back to the origin story, where you came from and how did Compass blossom into what it is now?
Construction was always in our blood. My dad's in construction, many uncles. But I did not necessarily want to follow the path. It morphed into that. But my dad always had us working on job sites and when we were kids. But it was always something I was interested in. I liked the physicality of it. I liked taking something from nothing and then, walking at the end of the day and looking at it and seeing that you built that. Mm-hmm. But early on, I was game for anything. I was paper routes, raking leaves, shoveling snow, anything it took. Things really took a shift when my parents split. That was like when people talk about like defining moments. I look back on it now and it definitely makes you grow up real fast. I was 14. Montana, you could actually have a driving permit when you were 14. So I had a 1979 Chevy two-wheel drive truck that I don't know how I got around in the winters, but I did. Lied on an application at McDonald's. I didn't want to work in the front because I didn't want people to see me. And lied and told them I was 15 so I could work in the back. And then 6 months later or something, I slipped up and told him what year I was born. And the guy put two and two together. He's like, you can't be here. So that didn't last. But then living on my own, I was 16 years old and Child Protective Services show up to tell me I have to have a legal guardian. So calling around and end up someone from the church, actually, and I've known him for a long time, called him up and asked him if I could move in with him, and told him the story, like, here's what's going down. I have to have a legal guardian. And they were gracious enough to let me let me move in. They also owned a construction company in asphalt paving.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job at their company, had chores at the house, had all the rules. You're 14, no rules. You're just doing your own thing. But I wouldn't say I was a troublemaker. I was trying to stay under the radar and cleaning dump trucks, working on a seal coat crew. Every now and again, get on the paving crew with the guys and did that until I was 18. The ironic part, their great niece, ended up moving up from California, and we met, and that's who I ended up marrying. But one of the rules of the house was no dances, and she wanted to go to a dance, so I went downstairs, packed the little duffel bag of stuff that I had, and I walked upstairs and told him I was going to be leaving. I wasn't going to lie to him.
Mm-hmm.
House rule. And I said, but I'm going to go to this dance. And you don't really think about the chain reaction of what's happening.
Yeah.
I was young, and now I got to have a new legal guardian. And kind of bounced around a few different houses until I was 18. And then it was, I'm an adult. I can do my own thing now. So I ended up getting into a little bit of a tizzy with the owner of the paving company, his wife.
That you worked for at the time?
Yep. And now I'm together with their great niece, so it complicated some things. But on a job, and I just got in the truck and I quit. And I was driving down the mountain, and there was an ad on the radio for a employment services company. So I went into that office probably 2 days later, filled out the paperwork, and I said, just give me a job doing anything for any wage. I just want to start right away. And the next morning I had to be at a site at 5 a.m. to work for a concrete company. And I'll never forget, I think I was making $5.85 an hour at the paving company, and I thought I was doing great because I got $8 an hour working at the concrete company. Pour out the mud. Kind of knew it wasn't my thing. Mm-hmm. I joke now that I hate concrete, but the owner of the company came up. He said, I'll give you a $2 an hour raise if you'll stay, because I was just supposed to be a day labor. Mm-hmm. And I said, actually, I'm supposed to be up on a construction site building a custom home tomorrow, so I'm going to take that. It was less money, but I kind of felt like there was more diverse opportunity. It was a 7,000 square foot custom house up at the ski resort where we live in Whitefish, Montana. And so I showed up there, same mentality. It's like, you're taught young, be the first one there, the last one to leave. Mm-hmm. So I showed up at 4 a.m. Nobody's there. And I'm just waiting for everybody to roll in. And I got some crap for it. The guys were like, oh, you're already a kiss ass.
Like a try hard type thing. Yeah.
But it wasn't long before it started to take off with, I became friends with the superintendent. I'm still friends with him today. And I just thought about it you're just a sponge. You're just I didn't know anything about how to build a house. Then I meet the owner of the construction company, and kind of, I'd say he took me under his wing. I was the young guy, hustler. I'd do anything. Anything that needed done, I'd do it. So I remember a day he was up at the job site, and they were looking at the blueprints. And that was the first time I saw a full set of blueprints, Mm-hmm. And I'm looking over his shoulder, and he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "You don't even know what the hell you're looking at." I said, "I know, but how am I supposed to learn?"
Exactly.
And end of the day, I went into the superintendent's trailer and I said, "Hey, can I take these plans home tonight?" And he kind of had the same mentality, but not as much of a jerk as the other guy. And he said, yeah. He said, but be sure that you bring them back tomorrow. And I said, I'll be here. So I went home that night and I'm just looking at everything and I'm just thinking, man, how do these guys even know what the heck they're looking at? Like, there's just so much information on this, thick stack of plans. And I just continued to just read the plans. And, technology now is so much different.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you don't have YouTube to kind of guide you how to, explain all of this complicated art and design and architecture. So, but you were just looking at it more you were very intrigued.
That's it.
I feel like in construction, obviously not by firsthand experience, but it's either you go into it knowing, hey, I'm just going to do this, or you go into this and you're intrigued on the bigger picture of how everything kind of comes together. So obviously that was you. You were the latter.
Yep.
Did it make sense all at once, or was it a progressive thing where this is going to take a while to kind of master how everything integrates together?
It was no doubt a long process. I would say it was years.
Wow.
But again, much like other situations in my life, I kind of got I influenced scenarios that maybe weren't fully thought through. I was so reactionary to everything. I remember another job, same company, that I watched 2 journeyman carpenters take 6 hours to build a 6-step flight of stairs. And I was so mad, like just watching guys just bilk the clock. And ironically, it was the same superintendent on that job. And I went into his office and I said, this is not acceptable. Like, this can't be a thing. What I didn't know was those 2 guys were down at the bottom of the stairs with the door cracked open and were listening to my whole conversation rant about how much I thought these guys were dirtbags. And I walk downstairs, guy gets right in my face. I'm 18. I'm not a fighter. I've never been a fighter in my life. And I said, you better step away from me. Like, because he was ticked. And nothing happened besides him being called out. And it was probably 2 months later. I was actually working on the owner of the company's house. And he and I got into it, telling us we weren't going fast enough. We framed his house up in like 9 days, 2 guys, me and one other guy. And I thought we were doing just fine, but he had an attitude, and I'm sure I did too. And he went to grab a hammer tacker out of my hand, and I said, if you go for it again, I'm going to hit you with it. And I threw it on the ground, and I just said, I'm done.
Yeah. And
I go home. I'm sitting on the couch all ticked off, and 2 hours later, maybe not even that, the guy that I was working with, Chad, he comes rolling in. He was my roommate. He had just moved into the area and he was trying to find a place to live. I said, you can stay with me until you find something. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, I figured if you can't work for that guy, I can't either. And it's just one of those moments that you look back on, and I said it right there. I was like, Chad, we can do this. Like, Chad was super sharp. Like, I learned a lot from him. I said, we can do this. And we just really sat down and focused on, like, okay, what could we get into right away? And that's what we did, and started making the calls. And there was no business plan. There was no structure. There was no, like, it's just 2 young guys just winging it. Like, they just wanted to go to work, want to go make some money. And we did. And it just really started to take off. But the connections that we were making, just running into guys at the lumberyard and seeing the seasoned guys that do know what they're doing. And talking about it and saying, hey, I got a project coming up if you guys are looking for any work. Yeah, Bill, I'd love to look at that.
Yeah.
So the next thing, like, you realize I don't have to know everything. I just need to know the people that know how to get that job done. I just started hiring those guys and subcontracting everything to them. And looking back, I mean, I had one house. I was 21 years old, and I was diving into construction like crazy. I started building my house when I was 20, and I'd look back on it now and think it's a really dumb idea, but I wanted a log house. And I will never own a log house ever again in my life. But when I was a kid, I raked leaves and did yard work for a guy that lived about 23 miles up in the mountains. And I made more money doing that than I did in any job that I had.
Oh, wow.
And Sam was a huge mentor of mine. And his wife, Donna, they were like parents, grandparents, mentors all together. And I'll tell you, that's the biggest thing for me now, 20-something years later. I had some amazing people that helped me, and I just wanted to work my butt off for them. That was my help, but that's no doubt what shaped me. And it all came from just working hard.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what it was. Most of the time it was physical labor. But just showing up, being on time, being consistent all the time, like, and being there for them.
Right.
They had several businesses in town, and Sam taught me how to run equipment. That was a big tool later, where you could jump on any piece of equipment and know how to operate it. I won't say I was the best, but we could get the job done. If in a pinch. I was definitely not wanting to be an operator. But I remember the relationship kind of started with this one guy. I had no credit. I had no money. But Sam asked me if I liked working up there, and I said, Sam, I love it up here. And he goes, would you live up here? And I said, I can't afford it up here, man.
Right.
And he said, I'll sell you 2 acres across the road for 30 grand.
Did you have that?
No, I didn't. But another reactionary thing where you're like, okay, I would do that. And he goes, all right. Then you go on the hunt, you're like, okay, where am I going to go find $30,000? And I remember thinking, okay, if I get that land, I could just buy a travel trailer, and I could move it to the property, and then I could live in that while I was building the house. And so I see this travel trailer for $5,000, and I went in to get a loan, and the loan officer's like, you have no credit, Bill. You don't have any history at all. We can't loan you the money. And I walk out and walked over to Sam's business, and I told him what happened. He says, walk back over there. I said, Sam, I was just in there. He says, walk back over there. And so I walk in, not realizing he had called them.
Oh, he did?
Yep. And he didn't co-sign for me. He didn't have to. He very successful businessman there. And
so he just made a call and
said, take care of him. Get this done for him. And I remember being pissed off when I left. Like,
why?
Because I didn't want
handouts or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I always, even at that age, I knew I didn't want to be beholden to anybody. I wanted to deliver on what was expected of me, and then be compensated whatever that was in return. And that's the first time I heard from anybody. Sam said, Bill, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's proven to be a big statement many, 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 many times in my life. And I bought that and got geared up, but I was talking to another bank about a home loan to get some construction financing. And so I go and I talk to this guy. He's one of my best friends till this day. And we joke about it. It's like, Shane, you should have never done that loan. Like, you couldn't do that loan today. It's the first time I heard somebody call it a character loan. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have loan history. And he said, Bill, I just knew you would make it happen. I just knew you would deliver. And so then all of a sudden you got some money, from the bank, and I go and I build this house. And then at the same time, that's the crazy part I look back on. While I'm building that house, when I don't know how to build a log house, but I was just reaching out to all these guys that were helping me. And I could go on for days about
the whole process,
all the help, Just going to log conferences and learning how to run a chainsaw and scribes and draw knives and everything. But that's the same time I started the construction company with Chad.
Wow.
So you're building a new house. By that time, got a baby on the way, and we're starting this construction company. And I used the word this morning, just grit. Like, you just go make it happen all day, every day. Another thing that I used to do, I don't do it now, and I actually don't advise this when I talk to younger guys about, first one there, last one to leave. But I kept a book in my truck, and I would log how many hours I worked that day. And I didn't add up the hours until the end of every year. But internally, my goal was to work 4,000 hours every year. And I remember years that I would work, 3,826 hours. And then I'd go back through all the days, and I was like, why would I only work that many hours, And it was like an obsession. But I loved my job. Like, you really start producing, you got guys that are counting on you, you got clients that are counting on you. And we were rolling. And so we start landing more contracts, building more houses, mostly residential construction. Mm-hmm. Another thing in timing, I mean, we used to joke, like, if you had a level and a dog, you could be a contractor. Like, the barrier to entry in Montana is pretty lax. We're in a small valley, 100,000 people now, but that network, building that network is always key, right? So build for one guy, he'd tell another guy, get into a subdivision, build one house, build another. So you'd get into these pockets where, next thing you look back, you're like, shoot, we've been here 5 years. Wow. And the time is just like flying by.
It's all stacking.
Yeah. Still with the company, like not really having structure, just winging it, Remember sitting, balancing checkbooks and writing checks and doing all these things, like, staying up till 3 a.m. just to get everything put together so everybody was paid so you could go back to work. And, didn't have employees. Just had people that we were working with, Feels old school now, but then Chad and we had started another company doing thermal imaging cameras. And then we had another company doing insulation. And everything was growing so fast, and there was so much to do in each business that we could tell it was going to start suffering.
Yeah.
So I sold the thermal imaging company, and then Chad and I sat down, and it's like, look, and Chad was running everything with the insulation. It was his deal, basically. I was just, anytime I could funnel some business that way, where it was like keeping it in-house, keep it in the family. And I said, Chad, just makes sense. You're taking the insulation. I'm running with the construction. And so that's when branched apart. We still talk to this day. He's still kicking butt with his companies. And I had a guy working for me at the time, and I wanted to change the name of the company because it was G&G, Goldberg and Guyman. And that's just what we called it. And he had a marketing degree. And I said to him, give me 5 names. Just write them down. But I don't want anything tied to my name, because I want people building something. A lot of guys at home, it's just their last name, right? Goldberg Construction or something.
We see it out here too.
Yeah, and I was like, and I have no judgment on that with them. Like it was a thought in my head, like, I don't want to do that. So he wrote down these 5 names, and I remember seeing number 3, and it said Compass. And I said, that's it. That's what we're going to call it.
So how many years were you G&G until you made that switch into Compass?
So that was probably 6 years.
6 years.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely have some questions because, first of all, my biggest question is the founders and CEO that try to do construction, the people who kind of bypass what you did, the gritty work, the knowing how everything operates from the ground up. Do you see, and we see this in industries too, but do you think that was definitely an advantage for you because you paid your dues, you know, coming from the ground up, doing all the gritty work, showing up early, leaving late? Do you see some CEOs that try to bypass that and just kind of run into some issues because they don't understand the whole process?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And that was, you know, I barely got out of high school, you know. All I wanted to do was just go to work. So there was no college talk. I remember my counselor looking me straight in the eye, and she was like, Bill, if you don't go to college, you will never amount to anything in your life. And I didn't think about it at the time. I mean, I was a little irked because I knew it wasn't my thing, but I actually went back into that school when my oldest daughter graduated high school. She was still working there. And I wanted to confront her. And I made it about halfway down the hall, and I could see the name placard showing her name, and something hit me. I turned around and I walked out, and the receptionist like, Bill, did you find her? And I said, no. I said, I decided I don't need to talk to her, because it was like light bulb moment. Like, she didn't know it, but that woman was fuel for me for a really long time. So when you're driving through all that stuff, like we talk about it with project managers or superintendents, like the best guys are the ones that have done everything from the ground up. Every lowest man on the totem pole that worked their way up, right? And some guys get in positions where they've got a degree or they've got some opportunity to step into a position, but they haven't been through that. So they don't understand it the same way. They just don't, you know. Some people call them paper contractors or something, you know. They're just guys organizing paperwork, but they don't really know how to build. And I think that was a big thing at home, because some of the projects that I was on when I was still in the field, the owners would come by. I remember one very distinct memory was I would go in on Saturdays and I would sweep the job sites out. I'm super picky about the cleanliness of the job sites. I know some of my guys think it's overkill, but I would sweep the whole job. And the guy comes up to me and he goes, Bill, aren't you too high up on the totem pole to be doing this? I said, no, I don't think I am at all. But I said, what you don't know is that while I'm sweeping, I'm seeing all the other things that need to be addressed, and then I can mark that out. So if I see some sheeting that didn't get nailed off right, or, you know, a bowed stud or something, you could mark it, and they're going to pull that out and they're going to make it right. So I did that for a long time. And you look at it and you're like, but that's how you got so focused on that attention to detail, to make sure you're checking all those boxes. And clients would see that and they liked it, you know, like that they want their contractor to be paying attention. And no, I can't say we didn't miss anything, but you know, it's that next level safety net to catch those things. And I miss that. I remember like towards the transition time where I'd still roll up to a job and throw my bags on, and the guys would be like, "What are you doing? Get out of here!" And I'm like, "No, I want to help you guys. I want to do this." And now you look back on it, it's like, yeah, it's definitely not the best use of my time, but it's and that's been a long time now.
Well, I think that's how you create a culture of winning, right? Yeah. All of the little details matter. I mentioned earlier, 1% off a budget costs you a lot of money. Not only that, it hurts your reputation, right? But if you take little details and you care about them and you put it to your standard, the standard that you want the culture to have with the rest of your team, that's what creates a winning performance within your guys and females as well. I heard this, which kind of reminds me of you, is this acronym called DDE. The first one is a little bit delusional. The next one is discipline, and the last one is execution. So when you started this, were you a little bit delusional in where you were going?
100%. There's no doubt. And you recognize it more now, looking back, when you're like, what the heck was I thinking? Like, man, like I wasn't thinking 2-3 steps down the road. I just made a decision. And you look back and that sounds very delusional.
But that helps, right? Because when you start something, if you don't know the whole process, you start, but you make progress, right? Instead of knowing all the things that you're going to have to go through and then not start at all. We all watch it today. And I had a guy, I would say the guy that really taught me carpentry skills, a guy named Steve. And he used the term analysis paralysis. Bill, if you're thinking about it so long that you're just stuck and you're just shelled up, like, that's a bad place to be. Mm-hmm. And I was never that guy. Like, it was very quick decisions. I'm not guaranteeing they were all the right decision at the time, but I made a decision and we ran with it. And even when stuff gets crazy, we've had some crazy situations where I got another guy, Ben, where he was just like, Bill, that's pure chaos. Yet you just went through it systematically in your head exactly how you were going to get that done. When everybody else is looking at it like, that can't be done. It's not possible. He's crazy. Whatever. And some of those challenges, like, I would internally have them. I remember, an example of that was we started getting into prefab construction, and there was a couple that I had went to high school with that wanted to build a house, and they were on a stupid tight budget, but they were also told that the lot that her dad had given her was not buildable. I don't remember one time me thinking, man, I guess it's not buildable. Mm-hmm. I went down to the county's office. I went through all the paperwork. I met with all the people, and I'm like, my understanding is that you told this girl that she basically has a glorified picnic site, and that's not okay. So it's like, you look back, where there's a will, there's a way, and we figured out how to get it done. That's awesome. And I remember meeting with that banker. It was her banker, which ironically was my same bank I go to. And I told him, I said, I'm going to build that house in 60 days. Turnkey. 60 days, a whole house?
Yeah. And he said, Bill, you're crazy. And every step in that process was very calculated on how it met my 60-day target. And I remember calling that guy up and saying, hey, you got lunch plans today? And he's like, oh, let's go to lunch. Gets in my truck and we start driving through town. He goes, where are we going? I said, I got to show you something. We come around the corner and there's the house. 54 days later.
54 days, so you're under by 6 days.
And he was like, Bill, you are crazy. But that's the, when you get into the planning stages and logistics and procurement and everything on how you're going to get that done, obviously your people are key, and you got to have a very dialed in process. So that was a 1,500 square foot house. It was, but then the projects inherently get bigger, and that same bank, this was probably 3 years ago. The bank calls me up and he said, Bill, we just ran an audit on 33 commercial projects. 32 of them are over budget, over scheduled, or both. And I said, let me guess which one's not. I knew it was ours. We were on a $40 million 39 unit condo project in Whitefish. And I said, Shane, you know me a long time. Like, why you call me? Like, what do you want to know? And he goes, they want to know how. I said, tell them we're Compass.
That's it.
That's all I said. Now I look at it like this is proprietary. This is what myself and my guys have busted our butts for, to get better and better and better technology implementation. I mean, look at AI now. Like remember the first time I looked at that and I'm like, man, I can barely turn a computer on. Like these guys, they navigate that stuff. And I'm just like,
come on, you're not that old.
They give me flack in the office. Like, guys that are technology savvy. I am not, but you know, I'm learning a lot real quick. I just got a text from one of my guys this morning, like made a AI generated rendering. And I said, this is what it could look like. And he's like, I'm proud of you using your chat GPT or your whatever. And I'm like, hey, it is a thing, you know, and it's a tool. Yeah. Looking back, I mean, even cell phones and, you know, having the ability to just be available at all times. Like I remember talking to old school contractors where they're like, we used to have like a job site phone up on a telephone pole that you'd have to call in like your lumber orders for these days, you know? And I said, man, that's the thing. Like we're so spoiled now. Like I just shoot a guy a text and say, hey, can you send that jag of lumber up here? And it's like, but I think about what they went through. You had to be more organized. You had to be more systematic. But that doesn't mean you can't do it today. It's just next level of that, right? It's been a journey. Like it's just getting better and better. That's the crazy part. Our shift over the last 3 years has been very dramatic. There was a big recognition on my part. Like I had a successful company and building up things, but we were a very small team. So for us, it was recognized because we had a low revenue year, and we were all sitting around like, man, what happened? We're working harder than we ever have been, like trying to hustle these deals and build all these performers to show guys what they could do. That's actually how I landed, partially how I landed here in Scottsdale.
Okay, so we left off at a low revenue year that led you to kind of think about expanding?
I won't say it was planned, but like what ended up happening, actually I better back up a bit. I always feel like this explanation segues back, and I don't like gravitate to talk about my divorce. So I was together for 20 years, and 5 years ago I got divorced, and not planned. Maybe one of those delusional actions where I sold all the real estate that I had, which wasn't crazy, but it was several transactions that were happening. And I moved 13 miles south of the town that I grew up in. And it was enough of just a gap to feel like it was a fresh start. Because I'd been building there for so long that, everybody in town's less than 5,000 people. And so I moved to Kalispell, and at that time, by that time, I had met who is a partner of mine now in owning some of these buildings. I'd met a guy, John Hegg, and his wife, Christien. They are the biggest reason for where I'm at in my life. I would say not just professionally, but personally. They've been with me through the great and the worst times. When the divorce occurred, I moved to Kalispell and I bought several buildings and businesses in Kalispell, and I moved my construction company's office down to a new building. I bought a 80,000 square foot, 130-year-old building right downtown, and very historic building to the town. And it was a really cool transaction for me because that owner had let me work in that building when I was a kid, and I would build lamps and in his little wood shop that he had upstairs in a warehouse. And then I bought another building up the street. So the lamps that I was building at 15, 16 years old, I would build them in the KM building, and then I would sell them in what they called the Alpine Lighting building. And then I ended up owning both of those buildings. So one of the other properties I bought, this is another promise that I've made, that I will never buy another bar again in my life. I bought a bar restaurant, very historic bar of our area. And it's friends with the family, and we were just talking one night, and one thing led to another. And I always said that I wasn't going to go spend any time in the bar. You know, it's just through my divorce and focusing on my time with my two daughters. And the one time that I go down there with some buddies, I was just about getting ready to leave, and I look over and see two girls sitting at the bar, and just immediately just flagged the bartender and said I'd buy their next glass of wine. And that's how I met Bridget. And it's an amazing blessing for me, because where I was and what I was doing before to what I'm doing now is drastically different.
And now they're all out here in Scottsdale with you, right? For a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. So we end up talking, and then we started dating, and next thing, she's pregnant with twins. And how I ended up in Scottsdale was the year after the twins were born, noticed the postpartum signs. And I wasn't present when my older daughters were born. I was just working all the time, and I didn't see that with my ex-wife. And she tells me it was there. You were just not there to witness it. So with Bridget, I just told her, I said, let's take a break. Let's get out of here. So I rented a house in Scottsdale for the winter. I said, we'll stay January through March. I said, I'll go back whenever I need to for the business. It was a huge, huge deal for us. It's exactly what we needed.
Right.
And one day I was sitting at a bar. Bridget was getting her nails done. I was waiting for her to text me that she was done, and I'm just flipping through on my phone, and that's when I came across Cardone Ventures.
He's big out here.
I'd never heard of the company.
He's huge out here.
Heard of anything about it, and you know, their marketing tactic worked. I clicked the button, and next thing I'm buying a ticket to a 9-figure mindset. I've never taken the bracelet off. This was 3 years ago, and I go to the event, and that's when I knew, like, there was a light bulb moment of Compass could be doing so much more. The quick synopsis of that was in January, March. So the first event, I buy a $40,000 package. Team comes down in March. First day I sign up for the next package, which was $190,000. The next day I commit to $500,000. And it's basically like the all-in. Because I'm hearing everything about what they're doing for these companies, and I'm meeting all these business owners, and I'm like, man, that could be me. Mm-hmm. Like, I could do that.
Right.
We could do this. And this is the crazy part. At the time, I had 2 employees. So you're looking at it, it's like we did $37 million in revenue the year before, and you're like, but there was also recognition of how hard they were working. Like, I don't want to burn them out. I'll keep going if they keep going. So there was that real conversation about, Bill, we can't do this anymore. So through that journey is where things really started to come to light about, I've had a company for a long time, successful enough, and then you realize if it was built and structured this way from the ground up with all of the right systems and all the right people and all the right implementation, sky's the limit.
I do have obviously questions about the future of Compass, where you kind of see it with all that, and that the connections through, the Cardone system. But I didn't know a lick about construction until my brother got into it. It's probably confusing a little bit for some of the viewers to know that he's raised so much revenue with only 2 people on the payroll as far as Compass goes. But you have to know that this is kind of a team they vet out, strategic partners with them. But let's talk about what generally a construction team consists of on your guys' payroll. And let's play a game to make it kind of fun, at least relatable for me. Could you compare it to like a football team? Is that possible? Because like you mentioned the PMs, the supers, what are their strategic roles and what do you depend on them to do?
That's interesting. So like the way I would explain it would be a little bit, it's still part of the team, right? But I've actually had this conversation with a business partner of mine. We're partners on a hotel back home. And he used the football analogy, but he's like, Bill, you are the owner. Mm-hmm. Then you have a general manager. Then you have a head coach. And then you start talking about, obviously there's a series of other coaches, but then you get into the players, like who's the quarterback? Who's the running back? Who's the wide receiver? Who's on that offensive line?
Or special teams.
Special teams, huge deal, right? Like defense. You think about all that, and I love sports too. So I'm like, I started talking to John about it. I'm like, man, but he was kind of grinding me because he's like, look, you have a quarterback that you trust and you believe in. Let him go be the quarterback, but you also have to let that head coach be that head coach. So, like I always tell people, I'm not a micromanager. I want to put you in a position to go perform and do your job. But I also know that that's also one of my faults where
maybe too trusting and they don't have KPIs to hit.
I know that I have lost great guys because I threw on too much too fast. It's a recognition through this program. Like if you got a guy, you got a backup quarterback, and he's like, I'm ready to get in the game, coach. And then you put him in the game, and all of a sudden you watch the falter, and you're like, look, you're going to step back. You're going to go back to backup. You're going to go to the practice squad. You need some more time, right? Mm-hmm. I think that recognition with some of our guys, like when they were in, because everything is happening so fast and it's all very impactful to the project, that you're not putting them in and then pulling them out of that project. Like when they're in, they're running those projects, or they're a part of that project. Doesn't mean you don't let guys go or change positions, but it really got into, when you talk about KPIs, metrics, that's where I knew my job as the leader of Compass is that I have to work on being very clear and specific about what that vision is and how we're going to get there. And that is not something I was doing before. Like, you're delusional, and the next,
like everything will just come together magically.
It just happened. Like I had an electrician tell me a long time ago, he was like, Bill, you lead by intimidation. You just tell us when it's going to be done, and then you expect us to perform. And that is not how Compass runs anymore.
So that's how it used to be, is what you're saying?
100%. Like, I mean, some of the projects, I remember a commercial build downtown Whitefish, and I literally had just put together a little one-pager document. It was a swag number of what a building could cost on that lot. And the guy looks at me and he pulls out a pen and he signs it. And I signed it. And that was our contract. Then I have to go build what I just told him I could build for that number, even though it's not vetted. And I did it. And I did it again. And I did it again. And I did it again. It doesn't mean it's the right way to go about it. 100% doesn't mean that. But I know now, when I do believe I live by failure's not an option.
Love that.
You have to get it done. The guys in the company now know two things. We have to meet the budget, and we have to meet that schedule.
So what happens if you guys don't meet the schedule or the budget?
We don't miss. Amy in my office, she's like, she gives me crap about, that's really cocky. And I would ask the question, what's the difference between cocky and confidence? I don't want to come across as cocky. I really don't. I look at it that the confidence is there because the track record's there.
The results are there.
And when you have that, now I love this term. I can't remember exactly when I heard it, but like that data-driven decision. When you are running a company off data, so I use the example of like references. I always hated it when you're going in for an interview and they want a list of references. People are only going to write down people that are going to say great things about you. Probably 5 years ago, I started saying, I didn't say how many references do you want? I would say, here's the way I like to go about it. I will give you our past clients in order for as far back as you want me to go.
And they can call any of them.
Yeah. And I remember one guy, Tom, I said, how far back do you want me to go? He's like, 5 years. I said, okay. We have all that data now. Collected, organized, foldered. That information's available with the click of a button.
Nobody else does that.
I've heard that more in the last 2 years. We take a lot of pride in how we bid a job. I think that's a huge misconception about construction is, people think construction's just, well, a crew rolled in and now they started building, and then they see the crew mob out and it's all built and it's like, wow, it's done. Nobody talks about the year or years of planning. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about the year or years after that project's built. Warranties and stuff comes up. I mean, I just on a exchange this morning where a project we built 6 years ago, and they're having this crazy fluke issue with the cabinetry. And I'm looking at it like, it's not water damage. It's happening on an upper. It's a delamination of what cabinet door is. And I'm like, I told my guys, I said, we're gonna rip all the cabinets out. Well, Bill, we could just pull off those 2 door panels and have them fabricated and get it matched as close as we can. And I said, no, that's not going to work.
And redo the whole thing?
Redid the whole kitchen. I texted the gal this morning and I said, I'm just checking in to see how the guys are doing for you. But I want you to know, I'm not happy until you are 100% satisfied. She texts me back immediately. She says, your guys are fantastic. I can't say enough. You don't know what this means to us. I will recommend you to everyone I know. It's costing some money.
Of course.
And you look at, well, the warranty period's up, everything, and it's like, I don't work that way. So I want them happy. So when you think about those systems and then how you're conducting business, you go back to the reference side of things and you get all that, and then they call those people. That's why I have the confidence to tell you I'm not going to miss a deadline, and I'm not going to miss the budget. When the banker calls and says, Bill, we got all these projects over budget, and we're trying to figure out how are you guys on budget? How are you guys meeting that? You just make it happen. You go make it happen.
And I talked to my brother after we had dinner. I didn't realize when he looked at me, we had a whole discussion when we had dinner, and you said, we don't miss. That doesn't happen in the world of construction. That just doesn't happen. The standard that this guy has in Compass Construction is unseen before. And it comes from really dark roots of a lot of grit, fortitude, not having a victim mindset because you weren't handed anything, no. Right? You learned from a lot of people, very grateful for that. But at the end of the day, Compass does not exist without you and all the hard work. We're kind of wrapping up here, but I do have some last questions. And the biggest one is CEO, entrepreneurship. It's a cool game because I've tried to think of any game you can enter where you get better the longer you're in, right? Because people do fade, people give up, they quit, they're not making their money, but you learn as you go and you get even better. And throughout this conversation, I see how you've kind of changed as a person and as a leader. Where do you see the future of Compass going and the changes that you're going to make even moving forward?
The big moves through our guidance with Cardone Ventures, we were shown that over a 19-year period, we hadn't left the 41-mile radius for work. And I looked at Seth. I said, why not? He's like, you never wanted to. It's literally that simple. Montana is a big state.
Huge. A lot of land.
So I looked at Seth. I said, we're covering all of Montana now. And that's when I started making the bigger moves with the company. I think we just hired our 13th employee. So over a 20-month period, you look at that, most of the growth has happened in the last 8 months. That's the path where Compass is headed. Building those networks, working with our investors on where else are they targeting, where else do they want to build, what do they want to build. I love that part, like get to go bird dog properties and Scottsdale. So I told Chris, our director of operations, I said, I hit Idaho first. So we're licensed in Idaho. We've got several projects lined up in Idaho this year. Wyoming, and then Arizona by the end of March.
Chris is such a great guy.
He's awesome. It was an interesting hire too, because Seth and Amy had been with me for so long that, I don't have partners in the construction company, but they're partners. I want their opinion. I want their buy-in. I want to know that we are all agreeing to go. Chris was a big hire for Compass. Seth was running all the operations. Amy was running all the finance. I'm out doing my thing. Chris has been a big asset, and even guys. I mean, we hired some young guys that They didn't even know what a 2x4 was. And they are bringing things to the table that I would have never guessed.
That's awesome.
And that's what's fun about where Compass is headed now, is more people.
So you mentioned Arizona, Scottsdale eventually. There's some big hitters out here.
Yeah.
Are you just going to keep that the same standard in knowing that that's going to get the job done? Because I don't know if that same standard is applied out here. It's got to be kind of fun for you competing.
Oh yeah. It's a big part of it.
So what's the game plan for the expansion of Compass? Just continue on, or are you guys going to make some moves in some of your business plans or your model?
Being a management only company, we're not self-performing any of the work. So our potential is immense. But it all comes down to finding those right people that are the right fit to understand the culture of Compass, how we operate. Not to be brash, but not everybody makes the cut. Act like we go through a lot of guys, but we do a lot through our due diligence period to determine whether or not someone is the right fit, and how they would implement into the company, what those specific job descriptions look like, what those KPIs are, what those metrics are, and when they're not met, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean that they're bad people.
Nope.
It just means that they're not.
It's not a good fit.
The Compass fit. And the thing that I've liked seeing very quickly here in Scottsdale was I met a gentleman last night, and I said, "Look, you're in the same line of business as me. So do you see me as competition, or do you see me as a potential resource? Because we can play in the same sandbox,
Yeah.
even though we're both GCs." And the guy was so cool. He looks at me and he goes, "There's plenty enough to go around here."
Love that.
He said, "Bill, you seem like a very good guy." He said, "Love to talk to you more." His dad's a retired GC. I can't wait to talk to him next week. People have been very open to talk, to network, to... I've had two guys, we'll just JV the project, joint venture it. Like, we'll work with you guys. That doesn't happen a whole lot at home. Montana's still kind of wild west, and obviously you could get into a project with the wrong people too. I'd segue it back. I mean, this is a whole nother topic, but the mentors that I have, I tell them all the time, you guys are like my board of advisors, and I could get excited about something. But when those guys tell me, slow down, no, don't do it, those guys have the wisdom, and I respect them so much that I'm going to listen. And I don't always follow everybody's advice or anything, but the true mentors in my life, I'm going to listen to that guidance. And I have one, he says, "Bill, you fall in love too easy." And you get really excited about it. And he's like, I love the passion, but he said, "I really want you to use me as the sounding board that I am for you." He loves development. He loves construction. He's in his 80s. He's seen a lot of crazy things. I talk to him almost every week, and I have that luxury that I have several of these guys in my life now. So that's been a huge key factor for me. And then now it's, I joke about it. I'm only 42 years old, and I'm like, I get a bunch of young guys calling me all the time and saying, "Bill, I need some help with this. I need some help with that. Like, anybody?" And I love being that connector to help them, because I remember when people were helping me and what it meant, especially feeling it now, that it's like, I want to be there for that guy or that girl, where it's like...
And you are.
I absolutely am. I tell them all the time, you call me whenever you need me, shoot me a text, And, people say that a lot, but how many times do they actually reach out? That's what's been, I've got dozens of examples in the last 2 years of they're reaching out and I'm helping them. And the more I help, the more help I get. And I'm extremely grateful. I love the word gratitude. Love that word. I'm feeling that more and more as time goes on.
So we met a month ago. I have to shout out M19 Mastermind. Ryan Pineda, you do a phenomenal job. I've never really joined a mastermind. That's something quite like this, where you make real connections on the golf course. But I heard his story in the golf cart, and I was like, I got to learn more, because I just want to get in a room and just listen, because he has so much wisdom. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
I really just have one more question, unless you have something else to say. But my last question is, what is the performance standard to you in all facets of life?
Ooh, man, that's the toughest one you asked me. What is the performance standard? Man, for me, it's ironic you asked me that, because the message this morning to my team was just keep fighting. Just keep powering through, even when it's tough, even when you feel like you're struggling. Mm-hmm. Don't give up. Don't quit. Lean on your team. We're here for each other. We are a team. Like, I may own the company, but I am nothing without these people. And I mean that. That to me is when you feel like you've got that true brotherhood built, to know that you can go to them for anything. Might be business, might be personal. It creates energy where you want to perform. You want to excel. You want to, I want to be the best. And I see companies doing things that I'm not doing, and I'm not too hard on us, but we can always improve. And sometimes they're big changes. Sometimes they're little things that have big, big impact. But when you're never satisfied and you're continually just taking those steps where you're like, man, that feels so good. Look what happened. Look at us now. Look at how much more efficient that is. Everybody wants to tie it to money. Money's a byproduct of what we do. I don't get fixated on the dollars. Of course we want to make money. But what I love is that foundational structure to become law of how you do everything that you do to the best of your ability.
Love that.
You make that happen, everything else will happen in your life. And it does.
Anything else you want to add, Bill?
I want to thank you. I love how quick our friendship started.
Yeah.
Another shout out to M19.
Yeah.
I too have not been a part of a mastermind. I really enjoyed our time together that first day. I loved meeting your fiance and your brother. I love the conversation. I love to talk. But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you putting this together. When you asked me, I was like, absolutely, I'm in. I love this. I love the fact that you're putting these messages out there to help people. And like you said, if it helps one, it was worth it. Yep. And I love that. So thank you.
And that's the goal. Shout out Be Known brand as well. Thank you guys. You guys do a phenomenal job of executing. But just want to close this out. I want to talk to more people. Look, it's not all about the money. I want people that perform, and it could be just as simple as being the best mother, the best father, the best person that they can be, because that itself is a story. And I think that's what's missing in America today. And I want America to be back on track. I think we're the best country in the whole world, but we have to execute the standard day in and day out. So welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time, thank you so much for listening. Please share it to somebody else. Welcome to the Dr. Pena podcast, the performance standard. Now go live it.
This is the Dr. Pena Podcast, where high performers come to raise the standard.